That's just too much going on. Hold on, I messed the KK up. Damn it. KK. It's kind of like when you like open a door and Mom, Mom, why are you, Mom,
why are you caking?
Why don't keep caking? I'm caking. You said you were brushing your hair. Oh, guys, welcome back to Pencil to Pencil Live. You can see this is live. We have no filter, no net, no notes. We got some new things going on in the chat. If you look at the bottom of the screen, very excited about that. Let's tell you guys what this is. Guys, if it's Wednesday, 8 p.m. EST, if you see 3 expert cartoonists on your screen, if you see the smiling angelic countenance, that means it must be pitch me, I must be dreaming time. Yes, y'all. Pencil to Pencil is back. Guys, welcome to the program. My name is JAMAR NICHOLAS. I'm your first co-host. I am on the board at the National Cartoonist Society and also the chapter chair of Philadelphia. That sounds very large, doesn't it? We contain multitudes. On top of all those wonderful things, I am also a graphic novelist. I have a book series at Scholastic underneath the graphics imprint. Leon, Worst Friends Forever is in stores now. Tell them, Conley, cop it. Why don't you?
Why don't they cop it?
They need to cop it. Guys, I would be remiss if I did not introduce my man. He's finished walking the edge of the superhighway. He's back in contention. He's coming for his belt. Go ahead, make the discount double check motion. Make the belt motion. Get up. Straight from the karate tournament. He's ready. Guys, welcome my friend, my good dear friend. By God, it's Stone Cold Steve Conley.
Gentlemen, it's so good to see you. I love the doodad there, the scrolling and the streaming and all that stuff. My name is Steve Conley. I write and draw the webcomic The Middle Age. Cop it, why don't you?
Yes.
You can read over our webtoons, Tapas, Go Comics, and over at steveconley.com. 300 some odd episodes? Some 300 some.
He copped a lot.
Many now? I've lost track. You can read them over on my website, and I would be remiss if I didn't introduce the Golden Doodler, the Tower of Power, the Man of the Hour, Too Sweet to Be Sour. He drew your childhood. You didn't even know that. You were like playing with blocks or whatever you were doing, and he was over there drawing it.
He drew the blocks. He drew the blocks.
I was drawing your blocks.
Mr.
All
Mike,
of your blocks. I drew your flashcards.
And just 2 daily comic strips. That can't be understood. That's just the craziest thing. It's not possible. So I really think just off of camera, there's like a clone or something drawing one of the strips right now.
Yes. Yeah. He's the one that's sleeping.
You'll be the one escaping.
That's right. Hello, everyone. Yes. In fact, was it today or yesterday? I had somebody say that I drew their childhood on Blue Sky. So, it's just the magic passage of time. That's really what it comes down to. I think it's just the fact that so many people are of the right age now. 20, 30 years on. People remember, oh yeah, I used to read that.
And I guess as we get older, right, and the fan base kind of ages along, find it, and maybe this is a question that's answering itself. Do you find, Mike, once in a while that you have young fans, like that maybe were introduced to your work from their parents? And I'm not trying to age you out, but it's like, hey, my dad gave me his Darkhawk collection, and I really like Mike Manley, that kind of thing.
A couple of years ago at a con, there was a girl that said, oh, my dad was a fan of Darkhawk. But not really. I think the people that would be my younger fan would probably be people that would have watched any of maybe the cartoons that I worked on.
Yeah.
But even those people are, even that's been a while now, because the last regular show I worked on, I worked on the aborted reboot the reboot of Ren and Stimpy. But that was actually a couple years ago now. So I would say probably the last thing I can think of that I actually worked on in animation was probably Secret Saturdays, and that's 10 years old now. So if you watched Secret Saturdays when you were 6 or 7, you're probably in your 20s. Samurai Jack, stuff like that. Younger people will say, "Oh yeah, I watched that." The problem really is that it's hard to watch any of that stuff now because it's not shown.
Right.
It's not shown. That's probably the biggest difference, I would say, generationally between us and anyone who's under 20, is that for all of our childhood, well into adulthood, all the things that we used to watch, like the Flintstones or Turtles or Transformers or any of those stuff that you watched, say from the 60s into the 80s, was in replay on basic cable.
Yep.
And now, there are kids that will never see the Flintstones, right? That will never see the Warner Brothers cartoons, will never see basically any of the Hanna-Barbera stuff. Maybe they will see Scooby-Doo, some version of that. But I think that's, I was talking to some animation guys last week, and I think that's the biggest difference. This is because for a long time, there was not enough new material. So they ran the old stuff because they didn't have new stuff. Now you really only have MeTV that runs old stuff regularly,
right?
And then they have their toon version of MeTV that almost nobody can get, and they run. They're sort of like what Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network were in the beginning, where they didn't have a lot of new shows, so they ran a lot of old shows. But that's the way it is. So if you're not doing a webtoon or you're not doing something on YouTube, young people are not probably going to really see what you do.
Discoverability is completely different now. The next thing would just be on after the last thing ended. Now there's none of that. Everything you have to hunt down.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So you have to sort of, the one thing I always say is that we are not typical, right? If you're an artist, if you're a real serious fan, you're not really typical because you're kind of a hunter-gatherer anyway. You kind of like to go look for things. You're always, finding stuff, searching for stuff, looking for stuff. The average person just takes what's, go turn on the TV. Oh, that's what's on. Right?
It's funny. I was just talking about this with somebody else in the same sphere, and I'm trying really, really hard not to turn into back in my day, because it's easy to do that now, especially because when our day was dope, today isn't as dope as.
You can do that within 5 years now. You can say back in my day, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
There was a thing called HBO. Then they changed it to Max. Now we should get back to HBO.
Wait, what? Well, I was talking about. I was talking to somebody about. This is kind of a Philadelphia story, but it could be anywhere. That when I was in grade school in the early '80s, the biggest thing in the world were ninjas. Ninjas were amazing. You got new Kazuki movies, and everybody was running around trying to stick to the walls. And you could go to Chinatown here in Philly, to Marshall World. You'll like this, Steve. I'm forgetting the name, but Marshall World was like a straight up unsanctioned warehouse. You could just buy ninja stars, katanas, and the two-toe boots with the hooks on it. You can buy all that stuff, and some kid would always come to school on Monday with legit ninja stars. And somebody's going to the hospital.
Kiss these ninja stars in your chest and homeroom.
He's like this, right? You're like, oh, and the person I was saying it to was like, wait, that can't be real life. I was like, no, that was real.
You show them the scars on your chest.
That's where you got your nunchucks from. But
I love that there's a romanticism about those days. Oh, it was so much better back then. It's like, and it's always like somebody's going to be saying, and I turned out okay, and they've got an iPad.
yo, I'm not,
I turned out okay.
Yeah, it's always something like that.
And if somebody would get because on your way out they give you a catalog, this thick catalog, and kids will be on the playground like, yo, I'm gonna get a full ninja suit. Be on top of the lockers stalking people, but that's frowned upon now.
Stalking people, yes.
I mean, bringing sharp objects with you to school.
Oh, see, Mike catches the vibe. So, but yeah, things. A couple of things that I really love about modern times, and it's kind of hard to not think. We do live in the future, right? It's like this, even as clear. Sometimes it kind of gets jacked up. As clear as it is for us to do these live streams, with hardly any hiccups or gaps or beach balls. I think it's pretty amazing. Like when Skype, nobody even uses Skype anymore.
Well, they stopped it.
Oh, Skype is over?
A couple of weeks ago, that was it. No more.
And my grandparents would have thought this is magic.
Mm-hmm.
This is just unheard of technology. The idea that, and I was earlier today, I'm like waiting for Photoshop to load. It was going to take a minute. I'm like,
Remember when you would have like 100 megabyte file, and you would go to save, and you go up to the store, change a tire. You could, you could watch the metamorphosis process of a butterfly. That little ball was going around and around.
I love it.
Yeah, if you wait at all now, click. Why isn't finished? Right? If you got any delay, people are so crazy now.
Yeah. So, as we kind of do this stuff, and I do feel like we live in the future. We just didn't get the George Jetson suitcase car. That's kind of all we don't really know.
I'm kind of glad people can't fly. People can't drive. Can you imagine the terror of drunk flyers constantly crashing into people's houses?
Marty, we got to do something about your kids.
That's right. They're drunk and flying again.
So, guys, let's tell you about what we're doing tonight. We're all kind of giddy. We're having a good time. Tonight, we are going to, and I totally can't find this graphic. It got lost in the sauce here. Tonight, we're going to do another sketch talk. So we just did one of these not too long ago, and we had a lot of fun. Shout out to Manley's cool graphic he did for this. And also Kung Fu Steve Conley made this fit into the thumbnail.
Iron Fist. He is now known in these parts as the Iron Fist of cartoons.
Giant pause on that. We're going to do another hangout with the chat, and shout out to StreamYard. They have some new tech, like Tony Stark said. We got new tech. There's the
Jarvis in the corner there.
Yeah, Jarvis is rolling in the corner. I would call that Guitar Hero chat, where it's just like scrolling up the side of the screen. But we haven't gotten to that point where it's scrolling. I hope that this doesn't kind of throw me off. We can always turn it off. So if it's keeping people from wanting to chat, then I'll turn it off. But it's kind of
people see my voice. I'm shy.
I like it because a lot of the Facebook folks usually can't see the conversation happening on YouTube and vice versa.
Oh, yeah, you're right. So now everybody can kind of
both feeding into that.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So there's Facebook and Pencil to Pencil, and just for people who don't know, because I think some people just assume we just went live on Facebook, and people are like, oh, that's just a Facebook. We're not even on Facebook. We're in a whole other place. We're Asteroid M broadcasting this. And we go live on my personal Facebook, on our Pencil to Pencil Facebook, and the Tubes of You.
Right.
Talk about technology.
What happens with a fourth screen?
What?
Let's add one of these others. When we add a fourth box, is it going to compress the bottom row, or is it going to overlay?
Well, go ahead, Steve. See what happens.
I'm going to add Mike. I'm adding your pad to it, if you know what I mean.
No.
Oh, Mike is obscured.
That's okay. You don't need to see me when I'm drawing. I'm not interesting.
All right.
Well, I'm sure it'll kind of like. I don't know if there's a thing where we can kind of like mess with that yet. Like it's there.
Yeah,
But
I just
don't know
want
if
to
we
make
can-
sure it wasn't going to compress like it did the banner. Cool.
Paul Pate likes it. Paul Pate, what up, Paul Pate? Paul
That's
Pate
perfect.
likes.
As long as Paul likes it.
Yeah, that's all that matters. So what we're going to do today, you guys, is we're all going to start drawing. We're all working on stuff, or maybe doing some live things for you while you kind of talk at us and we talk amongst ourselves. Steve, what are you working on tonight? I threw you under the bus, bro.
I have no idea. I just opened up a blank document and was just going to go to town. This week I launched another Kickstarter for the book Becoming Frazetta, which you can check out over on Kickstarter. It is not my project. It is a project I helped someone put together, help design the book. It's a beautiful book, if I do say so myself. And
It is. It's great.
it's a glorious project. It's amazing work. All of Frazetta's stuff from when he was a kid. I mean,
Do they still have it? Do they still have the originals? Is that what you're shooting from?
a lot of them are originals. There was a collection of Bailey, the publisher, and Frazetta's initial comics projects were, a lot of them never got published. Like the title got canceled, or they had trouble. They cut their line or something like that. So they're unpublished Frazetta stories from when he was, late teens. And it's amazing. Some of it's, I mean, everybody loves what became Frazetta, right? But he was an incredible cartoonist. What's really neat about it is the drawings, his cartooning is very lively. You'd think there'd be more stiffness in the work, but the guy was always had figures in motion. And when you see him doing cartooning stuff, it's super cool. So anyway, so tonight I'll just draw whatever I don't know if the audience has some ideas, or I'm just going to draw something from the fantasy world, the D&D world, or something like that.
Welcome to the D&D world. Steve, I know you're not a big video game guy, but do you ever play the Dungeons and Dragons arcade game? There are two of them.
Arcade game?
Yeah, that was very like mid '90s.
No.
Yeah,
I didn't even know there was one.
I'll get you.
I played Gauntlet. I played.
Don't shoot the food.
Yeah.
Elf needs food badly.
But
yeah, it's full of secrets, and if you know the mechanics of Dungeons and Dragons, then you'll really be good at it. Or you can just like keep smashing the button and you can still get through it. But it's like you can pick up spells, and it's like, oh, I'm not going to use haste here. You know what I mean?
Was this an arcade game or like a PC?
It was an arcade game. I mean, there's been a million Dungeons and Dragons games, but I'm talking about the arcade games.
I had no idea. I'm going to see if there's an emulator anywhere.
Oh yes, yeah. It was Tower of Doom and Shadow over Mystara. So what that kind of because I'm a big game nerd, that I got triggered because when you put your quarter in, a voice goes, "Welcome to the D&D world."
Wow, that's cool.
So, but yeah, you'll enjoy that.
Yeah. Oh wow.
So, Mike, what are you working on?
I'm gonna make something up out of the stuff that I'm drawing. So I usually just start with often what I'll do is when I do my wind downs or I'll sketch, if I don't have something specific in mind, I just sort of start with a scribble, and I'll scribble lightly, and then whatever the shapes are there, they will sort of suggest a idea. It's sort of like, it's like when you look at something and it looks like a face. I forget what, there's a name for that. There's a thing where you look at a face. You might look at a car and go, well, that looks like a face.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, like the iconography thing. Right?
Yeah. But there's actually a very technical term for that.
I am the ghost with the tearaway face.
Right. And one of the things I heard was that Mobius would do this. He would start out and he would scribble, and then he would make he would find a drawing.
You find it inside it.
Yeah, it's sort of a way of, for me, because I think, working on the comic strips is very specific.
Bear says it's pareidolia.
Right, that's it.
Thanks, Bear.
Yeah.
Look at that. We be knowing stuff.
So drawing the strips is very specific. It's like what I call like drawing the bones. Everything, you got to draw the bones. You think it's got to be in play. You got to have the word balloon here. It's very controlled. You have to hit your mark. You have all these things you have to do. So one of the things I like about doing this, so working with this process, just let it, whatever happens.
Let it breath.
Yeah, just sort of like, if it turns out crappy, well, that's just part of it, So that's usually that's how I start.
Nice. I'm kind of, and I'll do me in a second, but Juan just said he gave us a suggestion where we should mix up and draw each other's characters. I don't know. Mike's already started, and I had something I was going to work on, but maybe we can try to do that before we're done. Let's see how that goes. I was going to ask the chat, what do you guys think of this John in the corner? I'm a little distracted by thinking you were doing it. So what I was going to work on, and I have to put my thing on the screen, is I have a Leon page that I'm working on. So I was just going to work on that. This is a spoiler-free zone. So what I'm working on, I guess if there's anybody that is like, I don't know, biting their lip waiting for the next Leon book to come out, you'll be excited about this. But anybody else who just likes watching cartoonists draw, you'll be watching me draw. All right, so there might be quiet spells here because everybody's gonna have their heads down.
Well, they should use this, I think, as an opportunity to ask us stuff about drawing or whatever,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you heard Mike. Oh, what was it, Steve? What did you call Mike a couple of weeks ago? Was it the Pontiff? No, what did you call him? The Pontiff.
It was like the Pope of penciling, or
the Pope
Pontiff
of pencil.
The Pontiff. It was like the Pontiff of pencileering, and we had this because the new
Pope. I did like the Pope of penciling. So all right, I'm gonna try to. We might have to fight for space here, but I want to try to put my Clip Studio on the screen.
That might actually work, because if it puts 2 on the bottom row, it might make more room for the chat.
So on the bottom, pause. All right, let me see what I can do. I might have to move some stuff in there. Steve, if you want to read stuff out.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll keep an eye on that.
Yeah, this is just kind of like a little new for me because I'm used to looking in the comments on my window.
Or the same thing? Are they the same comments that are on the side?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly what's there. So it's kind of like doubling itself up. So this is, it's a work in progress. Something new.
It did sound like that the diamond situation is finally resolved, sort of, kind of.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second.
It seems like the sale finally went through after all the kerfuffle. I don't know.
Who did they sell it to?
I want to say it was the. Please, if anyone chat wants to add to this, but I'm pretty sure it was that the parent company of WizKids. Wait, what you guys might draw on my. Hey, guy, Joseph Cahoon Draus on the YouTube says, "Hey guys, smooth or vellum Bristol?"
Vellum, the smooth stuff. I just ordered another. I got another order in today from Dick Blick. I use the 300 series pad, 14 by 17, and I get the smooth finish.
And Robert Alvarez says, "This is okay as long as you don't talk about Bruce Timm." That's a standing recommendation, I believe.
Yeah, that's
Robert.
Robert's. That's his like Niagara Falls.
And Studio Sky Tiger, hey, watching you guys, Mike draw on my big TV in my office while I draw also. That's awesome.
Big TV. Welcome to Big TV.
Welcome to the Big TV. No, this will be fun.
So what are we looking at, Jamar?
So I have a spread of Leon's Magnificent Cave, which I've drawn 1,000 times. And the funny part about it is I kind of have a couple of things that always show up in the cave, but it's very fluid. So kind of like how in the Bat Cave there's the giant penny, that kind of stuff in the T-Rex. Like, so there's things that you'll always see in here, but I don't know if it's in this scene. Like one thing is Leon's mom, who's the superhero. Kind of has almost, like when you go to the dry cleaners and it's the big power rack that moves the clothes back and forth. She has pods like that in the Magnificent Cave with her old costumes in it that cycle around, kind of like, and Batman has his old costumes of the Bat family. And it's funny now that I'm looking at it, I don't see that here, but I'm just working on kind of tightening up this cave so I can ink it later. So this is a lot of pencils that I kind of roughed in, and I'm going over it now and making things.
And the lighter gray illustration, is that from a thumbnail or a smaller illustration, or is that just that you kind of rough everything in and then you clean up on top?
Oh, this was from a thumb. I'm glad you said that. So yeah, I probably drew this like super tiny at one point, and then I blew it up, and scanned, and got it in the document, and now I'm working over top of that.
And Randy Clute on YouTube says, Jamar, do you ink Leon digitally or traditionally?
I do everything digitally now, besides the thumbs. Like this was like a pencil sketch. But once I kind of get this into the computer, everything else is digital. Sometimes I think about printing out blue lines and doing it. I don't have that kind of time anymore. So everything's digital now. And I do miss the stack, but I don't miss it that much.
Did the one of the big reasons to have original art is to sell it? Do you worry about not having that?
Who's buying Leon? Who's buying Leon pages?
You're drawing someone's childhood right now.
But you know what? Maybe in 30 years they'll want it. But I think there's something about maybe even the middle grade graphic, or even just graphic novels in particular. There's no sales market for pages for that. People really, all this is, people want Batman.
Right.
You know what I mean? Let's not mince words here.
Because that market is all wealthy people trying to buy their childhoods.
Right. People want Jim Lee Batman pages. they don't want a random graphic novel thing that I did. And I'm not talking myself down. I'm not being down on myself. It's just really what it is. I do have some patrons who really enjoy my work and own some stuff of mine, but it's very, it's something that I do I have a very limited amount of people that want that. You know what I'm saying? So I don't look at this as I'm losing revenue because I'm doing this digitally.
Right.
You know, it's just kind of like who is really going to come buy this stuff? You know, again, I'm not trying to down myself, but if I was drawing Superman, then we'd have a different conversation. I hope that makes sense.
Oh yeah, totally. And the speed. I mean, your deadlines are so real that I understand the digital aspect too.
Yeah, I mean, when I first got my Scholastic contract, I started drawing the book on board, and then I think like at page page 90, I was like, I gotta this isn't gonna work. Over digital, and I didn't look back. You know, so you save time and you lose time in both ways. But I just know for the amount of editing I have to do, or just pushing along or pushing forward, I have to work digitally.
On the topic, America's Tom Zoller on the YouTube. I do originals for all my covers, so I have something to sell, but everything else is digital. Yeah, that's smart.
I mean, there it is. But and we all of us pro cartoonists, we have our fan bases. You know what I mean? I'm sure there's people that come to the con just to see Stone Cold, right? Like, Steve, you're here. I was looking for you. Hey, what's up? And you do business, but specifically for someone like myself, I'm not thinking that there's some aftermarket that is clamoring for page 172.
Well, your fans are probably not going to a convention to buy artwork. I mean, they're 10 years old.
There's that too.
The 10-year-old who breaks out his credit card.
Yeah. I would like to see Leon, but I would like to see him wearing his first costume, not the current costume. Oh, here, I brought some drawings of costumes I would like you to consider drawing him wearing. Oh,
dude, I did. Steve, I'm not prominent on the screen, and I'm not looking at the thing. Take me off of that. Let somebody else be on top. But I just I had a school visit. And hold on a second. I'm just going to minimize it. Thank you. I had a school visit 2 weeks ago, and I got a bunch of thank you cards for the kids.
Aww.
So speaking of that, they're all like kind of like comic strips, like there's panels, and I don't know what the thing was going on at the school, but it's kind of like say something nice and then give them a criticism. So
amazing.
Right. I'm gonna try to find
you. But panel 3.
There's one. Hold on. There's one in here where the kid is like, "I really like Leon. The art is great, but he needs a sidekick, like a duck with a top hat."
Kid's not wrong.
So, right. So you can't really see it, but this kid says, Nick says, I love the book. It's so funny and entertaining. But make a book about Dead Rails, please.
About what?
Dead Rails, I think, a video game.
Oh.
And then he drew the train conductor from Dead Rails. It's like, I like you, but can you do something else?
Can you do what I like? I like you, but you're not doing what I like.
No, these are really sweet. But people. I think this is Bob the Bandit. He's a duck wearing a bandit's mask. So I love this kind of stuff, and a 45-year-old dude with a neck beard has never given me a thank you card. So
I beg to differ, Jamar.
I love Leon, but when you need to add a shark with boobs.
Oh, I forgot about Boob Shark. Oh, here we go.
That's what we should be drawing tonight, Boob Shark.
Here it is. This is the one. Here's a duck for you.
Aw.
So the kid goes, I like the drawings, And I think that you should add him really turning into a superhero with a pet duck. And then please make a book about a duck. Please. I made a duck for you. I love it. Oh, my heart. So there's something really special about that. And I hope I didn't sound too negative with the original art stuff. But
Oh no, not at all.
but my process is not, I better draw this on paper so I can sell it later. It's just not part of what I'm doing right now.
Jared teases a duck with a top hat would be cool. Stunt Ken on the YouTube, like Schultz or Watterson's, where the strips are in a museum and appreciated the great genealogy to see that work in historical point of view.
I appreciate that. You guys are too kind.
Going back a little bit here, we had a question from Joseph Cahoon-Drews. I don't know how to say your last name, Joseph. I apologize for that. Cahoon-Drews on the YouTube. Do you guys ever do color guides for your art using watercolor paints?
No, not anymore. I mean, the days of doing color guides, I think, are pretty much over, because if you did the color guide, you also had to draw the code. You had to put the code in for like
the PMS color or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Well, right.
There's a code, right? The key. Right?
There was a chart that you got from the printer with all the colors that you could use, plus K-tones, which are the colors plus percentages of black. So depending upon your budget, like some books didn't use K-tones, like probably like Archie's and certain comics like that didn't use K-tones. But then you would write, like Superman was a certain percentage blue with a little bit of magenta. So a little cyan with a little bit of magenta, like Spider-Man, right? His blue wasn't just blue. And so you would, if you used markers or watercolors, a lot of people used to use inks, Dr. Martin's dyes, whatever. Then you would actually you would write the code for that, and you would draw an arrow to that part so that the person at the plant would know when they did they used to use Rubylith. You can now look this all up on Google, and you can actually see. So what you would do is you would have acetates for every color, which is an overlay, 10% blue, 10%, 20% blue, 20, 40%, whatever percentage. And so that was all actually done by either cutting a piece of what they called Rubylith, which was a acetate that had a red film on it. So whatever you cut off and left that red, that would be a color. Would be on the press. So you would make all these separations by hand. Now you could watercolor something now. And in Europe, they used to do the blue line, where they would make a blue line image of the artwork. And then they would make a clear film positive, which was like an animation cell with the image on it. And then they would tape that over a board that had a blue line image, and they would color on that, and then they would put the blue line, then they would put the like an animation cell. You wouldn't color on the back of it, you would actually color the board, and you would put the positive over the top of that, and they would shoot that. That was a lot of European comics were colored that way, but nobody really does that now. Everything is really done in Photoshop. Some people, I think, use Procreate, but whatever you do, you still have to put out usually as a Photoshop file, because that's what all the printing software uses is a Photoshop, either a Photoshop file or a TIFF.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Right. So nobody really colors that old way anymore because nobody at the printer actually works that way. For a long time, comics was still done that way. When I got in, it was done that way, but little bit by, in fact, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, Marvel bought Malibu's coloring, their coloring staff and stuff, to finally switch over to do the stuff with the computer, because the printers basically said, we're not working that way anymore.
Right.
It was very labor intensive to do that old process. You could get really good looking stuff, but it was very labor intensive. They used to have like gangs of old ladies that would do that stuff. And they basically are like, once we went to the computer did the separations. There was no more hand separations. So you gotta change. So eventually, I think, if I remember correctly, you can probably look this up again, Google it, that Marvel bought Malibu so that they could start using that process. I believe one of the first comics that were done with the computer coloring was
Akira.
Right, Steve Oliff coloring Akira. Yeah.
Oli Optics.
Yeah, that was in the 80s. That was the late 80s.
Yeah.
So, so nobody really colors that old way anymore. And again, like, why would you want to color that way? Because it would really basically not. It would take you way longer, because most colorists now have a team of people that work with them. So they have flatters and people that go through and basically color the image on layers in Photoshop in gray, and then the colorist comes in later and changes them into colors, and then does extra stuff, fades and things like that.
Some are even putting in the base colors now because it's just as easy. So they're putting in the real obvious colors as part of the flatting.
Right. Yeah. So you will see very often somebody saying, "Hey, I'm looking for a flatter."
Mm-hmm.
Comics was always sort of the last man to change anything. They always resisted change.
I just kind of looked up. I'm looking for the chat. You guys are funny. Thanks, Ben. And thanks, Juan. I was in the other room going through old files, and it's crazy, looking at the dates on stuff. And Mike can attest to this. There's stuff I drew. It says 2006 on it. I'm like, I feel like I just did that. But truth be told, I got a lot of paper laying around. So a lot of us guys who've been doing this for a while, the digital stuff is fairly new, right? You have drawers and drawers and bookshelves full of stacks of Bristol board. So it's not like it's like, you know what, I'm not going to draw on paper. Like it's not really a revelation at this point. I think in some cases it's probably helping you not die under a mountain of paper.
Well, the fact is, if you're working as a commercial artist, you don't get to decide any of this stuff. The client goes, "This is what we're doing. This is the software we're using. So you got to work this way. And if you don't, you basically make yourself unemployable." In fact, even if you work traditionally, which people do, then you still have to scan it. And the big publishers don't scan it anymore, right? So in the old days, if you did your golden book and you send it to New York, which I have done, you go up, You take it to New York, and they take it, and they would scan it, or they don't. I shouldn't. They say they didn't scan it. They took it to a photo engraver to shoot it,
Mm-hmm.
right, and make a transparency that they would send to the printer. They don't do that anymore. So you do your thing. In fact, I remember I was doing covers for Western Publishing, and I was doing the Blue Line process, and I had to go downtown to a place around 18th Street, and they drum scanned it and gave me a transparency that I would send to Western Publishing. So increasingly what happened is, in the old days, the publishers did everything. And they had an art team and a bullpen, and they had cameras and people, darkroom, they did all the separations, all that stuff. But they basically got rid of their art department. So if you're working for Random House and you're sending in the book, it's up to you to get your work digitized,
Sure.
Whether you're shooting it
Mm-hmm.
and with a super high resolution digital camera, like 20 pixels or 20. I mean, that's the way everybody does stuff now. Right, and then you send them the file. Nobody is sending original art anymore.
Yeah, I remember I hired this is the biggest name drop I'll ever drop on the channel. I hired Drew Struzan to do a piece for him, and sent that transparency, and it was a thing where it's like I was all digital at the time, so I had to get it from the transparency back to digital, which was kind of an ordeal. To get this beautiful transparency back into a high resolution format that I could use for the cover. Well, that was awesome. He was in the news lately. I think he's recently basically retired at this point.
Yes.
I don't even think he's signing things for folks anymore.
No, he's too ill now to be able to even do that, unfortunately.
But a legend, an absolute legend.
Yeah. I have a funny story because there was a guy who was teaching a class at a local school, and he was a very old school guy, very good and everything, and he was really trying to make the students do, you gotta, do this old school thing, and I take in my originals, and blah, blah. So he was like trying to take the class down to the Philadelphia Public Library, which used to have a very extensive reference library. And made the class meet down there. They go inside. Oh yeah, well there is no reference, because he was like, don't be doing that Google. You need to go, ace reporter Jimmy Olsen, down into the archives. But as it turned out, oh yeah, well, we digitized all that shit. So you're still searching online, right? You're still using the computer to search for stuff. So
the Clavens.
Right. So it doesn't really matter what you say you want. It's what the client. It's you can still work traditionally. You can just do all that stuff, but you still have to be able to deliver it in the way that the client wants it. So I prefer working on paper, but I do both strips now digital just because it's faster. I would and pre-COVID, my assistants worked in the studio, but once COVID came, that also really benefited me to work digital because Liang or Mimi, Mimi's down in Virginia and Liang's in North Philly, so I can work with them remotely. They don't have to get on the the L or whatever, the train, and come over. So it's just the way it is, you know. If I'm just doing everything myself, if I was doing one strip, I might go back to doing traditional if I was just doing it myself. Or if it was something that I really thought there would be an aftermarket for the originals. Otherwise, no. I would not do it now.
I love that we're talking about this. And I feel like part of the reason we're talking about this is that I think it sounds really cool to have an aftermarket for your work where people are just like, oh man, you finished with that page, I want to buy. And there are guys that have that, you know, but that's not, that was like a couple of months ago when we were talking about the money in comics, and somebody was talking about how, oh, you know, when you sell your originals, like that's just a given. That was like, remember that was like the show me the money stuff.
Yeah, I want to say that there's quite a few cartoonists who just have never sold their original. I think David Peterson might be one of them.
So are we talking about them just not wanting to sell it? Because I know there's a bunch of people who were just like,
Walt Simonson doesn't sell his, so any Walt Simonson work you see out there,
stolen
stuff that the inkers got from their cut of inking. But Walt has all of his stuff. He does not sell his originals. I don't think the Jerry Ordway, again, I haven't sold many of my originals. You know, I just, a couple of years ago, I just sold Darkhawk #1 because the guy offered me like a shit ton of money for it. So, and I needed to do some improvements on my house, like, you know, replace my roof and things like that. So I sold it. And some people feel very attached to their work, and some people are like, you know, I could sell it. You know, I don't really care, you know.
Yeah, I find myself so attached to eating that I often just sold any of my originals immediately.
Well, I know a lot of guys who are very popular but very slow sell their artwork and would actually pre-sell. So like I'm going to do an issue of the X-Men, and then they would actually pre-sell it. So when they got the art back, it would go right to their agent or right to the person who.
Wow.
Yeah.
Joseph, I'm gonna get this. I'm gonna get this right. I'm gonna review.
He told you how to say it. It was in the chat.
Joseph Cahoon Draus says, this question is from Mike. When you are creating the Sunday Phantom, do you create the vertical horizontal layout or however you want?
The Sunday Phantom? I don't do the Sunday Phantom.
He doesn't do the Sunday.
Well, there you go.
That's Jeff Weigel. So
is it, and the Sunday's in continuity with what you're doing, right?
Nope.
I thought it was.
Nope. Completely different story.
Wow.
My story, the dailies are different than the Sundays. They always have been. That would just be a nightmare, to be honest, for both either Jeff or me to have to work, you know, off the other artists, and unless you had unless you had a 6 months lead time, and it's just not. I did that on Batman when I was doing Batman. One of the big drawbacks to me when I was doing Batman was that all those books linked together. So you might have to wait for somebody to draw something, or they might have to wait for you to draw somebody or draw something. It was not a lot of fun.
Just for consistency, to make it you're drawing the same character the correct way, like what their hat looks like or something.
The staging, the scenario, you know, if you
Sure.
are picking up from what Todd Grummett did or Graham Nolan did or what Brett did, or Jim Ballant did, then you have to see the way they staged something.
Right.
And the characters and the way they were dressed and, time of day and, all the whole 9 yards. So, yeah, no, it was not fun.
And hello, Dee, and hello, George, in the chat. Good to see you.
Yo. Steve, thanks for doing all this lifting. I'll tag out and stuff.
Oh no, you're good. You're fine. Managed to find at least one layout. Do we get to see a bit more close up of Mike's work? And the chat's got a little bit of room there too. Eternity Forever. Hello.
Eternity Forever. Eternity, tell them what to do with their thumbs. Thanks. Eternity is like the resident. Yo, like this channel. Like and subscribe. There needs to be more likes and subscribing. Thank you.
Okay.
Steve, what's your I know you've been super busy lately, but when you're in front of people who kind of don't believe the magic trick of being a cartoonist, and they ask you things like, "Well, Steve, what do you do all day? How do you respond to something like that?"
Well, I wish I could say I spend more time drawing. My gig is often, I'm often juggling lots of, we talk about wearing lots of hats. I'm often spending a lot of time figuring out the next gig, or in this case, with the middle age, trying to find time to work on it. It's really I talk about this about like how I kind of think it's the reason I'm on the planet, is to work on this silly comic. It brings me the most joy. If I don't finish the story before I shed this mortal coil, I will die disappointed.
You're not haunting anyone?
No, I won't never say.
I formed these chains in life.
It's just a string of comic strips, like a CVS receipt.
Long vertical comic strip.
Do you have your comic savings card? Discounts on Zipatone and markers.
Studio Sky Tiger on YouTube says, Mike, that looks like a Tombow brush.
It is. I just bought some because they're fun to sketch with.
Yeah, I love those. Are they waterproof?
No,
I didn't think so. So would you? Oh, we lost Mike's camera there. I'm gonna switch our view around.
Shout out to Ray Anthony Height.
Yeah, Mike, it looks like your camera for your drawing went black.
Oh, let me see here. What happened?
I'm gonna take it off the screen for the moment.
Okay, hold on a second. Let me see here. What's going on?
Harlan Littlejohn on the YouTubes. Question for anyone: is there a brand or test that you use for finding paper for inking? I like smooth paper, but there are papers that are way too smooth and smudge really easily or have weird dimensions. I feel like that's a good question from Mike.
I like smooth paper because I like to use a pen. If you're using markers, usually you have to let them. I would let a page dry a good 15 minutes before I erase it or it'll smear. Some of the let's see here. You just have to sort of experiment until you find the stuff that works for you. That's basically the way it works. So you have to find the stuff that works for you.
So trial and error.
there's never any all-purpose thing that works for everyone. You know, one guy will go, no, I like paper with a tooth. The other person goes, no, I hate paper with a tooth.
So what do you do, Mike? You get a pad of paper and you don't like it. You see if Amazon takes a return of a slightly drawn
Rage
paper.
to the street.
Burn
Rage
it.
to the street and take it out on some poor soul. I think this. You guys keep going. I'm gonna have to change the wire.
Gotcha.
In my. I think I need to buy a new wire.
Bernatine thinks we need to have a "What do you do all day" episode.
What do I do? I do exactly what you just see. That's exactly.
I think I'm kind of interpreting that. I think he's also saying, "What do you do all day?" You should like this episode.
Yeah, that's what he's saying. So, but that's also a thing where I thought, and this happened for a little bit of time, and then it went away when we were in lockdown. And for anybody that kind of is a career cartoonist, and everybody's like, "Well, hey, I was built for this. I was born in the darkness," right? Like you were like in your zone because you're home and you don't have to leave and all those things. And then a lot of people's families were like, "Holy crap! We got up at 7 and got the kids at the house. It's 3:30. Where'd the day go?" Exactly. Right. Exactly. It's not. It's it's not naps and macaroni and cheese all day. Like the day goes by really fast. So I feel like people have already forgot that. You know what I mean? So when you're like stuck at the salt mine working your 9 to 5, and you're like, man, it sure would be great if I could sit home all day. But also I always say the other takeaway is that, what was that anonymous quote? When you work from home, you're always at work.
Yeah.
There's really no division of day unless you make it for yourself. So it's very easy for all of us to sit in this chair for 16, 17 hours a day.
Also, it's easy, when you have responsibilities or you're sharing responsibilities with a partner, to find yourself like, well, you're the one home. You could take the cat to the vet, and you could do
yeah, that's a soup starter right there. Right. So, and how do you deal with that?
Suck it up.
Well,
because it is true. It is a thing where the vet's only going to see someone on Thursday afternoon, and if they're stuck on the clock somewhere, and you're like, well, that's my schedule. I'm just going to get up earlier, stay up later, and but it's not like, we don't get mental health days or any days, but it's but I do get a full night's sleep most of the time. That's something that I'm not bitching. You know what I mean? There's a lot of but it's easy to interpret it as that, there's so much the flexibility in my schedule means that when I need 8 hours, 9 hours of sleep, I get it, cat willing or construction willing. Oh, Tom Zoller, my partner, is the cat. Oh gosh, I am remiss. D Parson on D, so good to see you on the Facebook. It makes it easier to make those, and you really wouldn't tell the difference unless I told you. Also, it's good that if someone wants the same strip as someone else, I can send a duplicate. That's a really good idea.
Wait, what are we talking about?
I think about originals, right? Have I lost the thread there, D?
You know what? Also, I don't know. I don't know. I like there's a lot of conversations happening about original artwork, and I think it's who's asking, and I'm not pointing fingers or anything like that, but it's. Can you hear me okay, Steve?
Yep, I can. I'm just I'm apologizing to D for mangling their train of thought.
Well, I think it's who's asking, best intentions, legacy, archiving. There's a lot of things that are swirling around in an answer to something like this, right? If you look at what you do and feel like you have sellable work that someone at some point in the future would want to own, are you willing to sell it? And then if that's also the case, where are these people that want to buy it? You know what I mean? That's a whole other thing. I know there's a lot of comic book pros that have art dealers and all those like middlemen and managers and stuff. That's its own job right there. You know, I got to send all this, package all this stuff up, or Miguel's coming over on Friday to get these pages. These are my studio going through my drawers. Pause. Like, oh, this is a good one. Like, that's a whole other thing. You know what I mean? Beyond just sitting down and working on your stories.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think it sounds romantic to go, oh, I'm going to sell these pages. But again, like we said, there are a lot of people that don't want to break up a set. They don't want to. They don't want to sell their stuff because that feels like that waters down the value of it because now it's out in the world. You know?
I had that when I drew Star Trek. Like all the stuff I had done starting in my first comic in 1994 was all drawn digitally, all with the mouse in Macromedia freehand, Aldus freehand, Macromedia freehand, and with some textures in Photoshop and stuff like that. And then my next comic was done again the same way. Astounding Space Thrills. Those comics were all drawn digitally. When I got Star Trek in early aughts, like I got to draw this traditionally so I have original art to sell because there's enough Star Trek fans out there. But they immediately snapped up all the good pages. So if you want to, you know, an establishing shot of the of engineering with a few red shirts, I have stacks. But Dee's kindly reposted. I appreciate that. So to start. Since I don't do rosebud strips traditionally, I do what I call digital originals. 17-inch length-sized UV printed strips with all my sketches and stuff showcased on the work to give the appearance of an original, and I sell those to fans or do trades with cartoonists. It's been a really good alternative. I love that. So making a one-of-a-kind or certainly hard to replicate close to an original. That's lovely.
Hold on, before you take that off, shout out to Super D, who is, in their little avatar there is sitting next to Jim Davis, right? Let's respect the architects here in the chat. So good on you, D.
Did I come back in, guys? Did you? Am I on?
You are indeed.
Okay. Yeah, you want to switch them out?
Yep.
No, I mean, you don't have to do that. I can't tell if you don't tell me if I'm back in.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. We have a lot of different layouts here. I'm gonna see if I could pick one that doesn't ruin everything.
What up, Bob? I see Pop Culture Squad's in the building. And this is it's kind of tough because everybody's like looking down somewhere else while we're trying to do this live. So we apologize for any pauses in the chat.
Well, I almost got it. There we go. Yeah, we're using. Wait, I'm not sure who you're asking a question to there. Pop Culture Squad. Good to see you. Yeah, we got the little auto comments there. So again, Dee, thank you again for recapping that. I really appreciate that. And talking about the schedule about who's got flexibility or not. George Gant says that's pretty much how I became the house chef. It's like, yeah.
I mean, I think the biggest thing here is because it's real, right? It's like you got to pick up the kids. Dinner's got to, somebody's got to take that tray of chicken out of the freezer at 7 in the morning. And, we've all been there when you look up, it's 4:30, you go, oh shit, I forgot to take out the meat. Pause. Right, then there's hell to pay. But it's kind of like, if you try to keep office hours, it shouldn't be so daunting. And there's always kind of days in the week where it's like, I got to go do this, or, I gotta go pick up dog food or what, you know what I mean? Like it's not always going to be a straight line. But I think just carving out time to get stuff done is important. But
Right.
yeah, but there is also a put your foot down moment because this happened to young Jamar, as I had, my buddies had young kids. We're old now. I had young kids. Hey Jamar, you don't have a job. Can you go pick up my kid after school? You know what I mean? I'm like, no, I'm busy. But then it's like, oh, well, all right. The next thing you know, I'm like,
friend you are.
And I'm in the drive-through line getting this kid McDonald's at 4:30 in the afternoon.
I named a little Jamar after you because I know you would go fucking pick him up from school.
Can you go get my kid? You know what I mean? And there, at some point you have to go, look, man, I can't, or whatever. There's points where you just have to go, I'm not available.
I'm gonna go get him, but I'm not bringing him back. That's too much.
And then at some point people will respect it, but you have to kind of let them know. But also I think a lot of that happens when you don't respect your own schedule. Like if you're always just floating around, or I'm going to go to the mall, and you're not actually working, then it's easier to fall into those traps.
Yeah, I guess I never had to worry about that. I mean, even when I was with someone who had a kid, that was not, that was not, I've never been that kind of a person. I'm always working, and work is always paramount.
I thought you were gonna say you're not that kind of pushover. I was like, oh yeah, I am. I'm a pushover.
Eternity says, never forget to take the beat out.
Oh, you can get in trouble with that.
Yeah, word up. Did you see this? I'm going to put this on the screen. Mike, this is for you. Harlan says, question for Mike. How do you deal with depth? Just for Mike. Nobody else has these problems. How do you deal with depth of field when doing perspective on backgrounds? I have a character that is in an enclosed space with a big creature, but he's in an elevated position.
Well, I mean, it's different for every composition, so I'd have to see what the person was doing to, there's no one answer for anything like that. It's like everything is case specific.
He says, I'm not sure how to put the background in.
Well, is it a 1 point, 2 point, 3 point? You draw the space for the general rule I always tell students is you draw the space first and then the character fits into the space. It's really hard to backwards engineer. If you draw a character and then you go, okay, now I'm going to put the background in, that you're really, if you have a lot of experience, you can do that. But you draw this. What did I do here? I drew the space and I fit this monster in, and then I fit from big to small.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I did, big to small.
Hey guys, let's get a thumbs up for this fine program you're watching tonight. And I'm enjoying us doing these kind of live theatrics. You get to see everybody working. You get to ask us questions. You get to pinch yourself. You must be dreaming. I always enjoy that. And I don't really know a lot of spaces on the internets where you can get this. I know there's plenty of people that will sit there and draw some stuff and ignore the chat because they're too busy, charging you for the super chat. $5. Oh, I saw what you said. I'll put it on the screen. Thanks. You know what I mean? So, I appreciate the community here.
Since all our chatters are super chatters, that's right. We're at a loss.
Right? We don't charge you to put your comment on the screen. That's right. 21 and up, please like. Thanks, Eternity, forever. Eternity's been around for a minute. Like, I remember we were like in early stages.
No longer a teenager.
Eternity was around when Brett was on the thing, I think. Pop Culture Squad says, "Hey Dr. J, did you sneak into Fan Expo?" Hey Bob, no, I didn't sneak in. I was invited. So yeah, I was at Fan Expo Philly for a hot minute one Saturday at a signing at Multiverse Books. Had a pop-up book on the first floor, and they invited me in to do a signing, and then I rolled out. But you know what's funny about that? It's like how many people don't pay attention to stuff. Like you put it out into the world. Hey, I'm going to be at this thing, but I'm not set up. I don't have a booth. And all day I kept getting, yo, where's your booth? Yo, I can't find you. Where's your table, dude? I told you I'm not here. I'm home already. I'm in my pajamas already. What are you talking about?
I've given up on anybody reading anything I write in an email. I could put it. I can repeat myself 5 times, put bullet points, create a graphic, an infographic, and then the next email will ask me what they'll quote me and ask me a question that's easily answered, like in the first line. It's like in the subject line. I give up. I was taking it personally for a while. I'm like, oh no, this is just the Twitter era or something.
Well, I guess you can always chalk everything up to the algorithm, but I've said, just as a matter of fact, this is a great conversation. As a matter of fact, the other day somebody was like, "Yo, I'm trying to just be done with the socials." Like they just wanted to leave the land of men. Just like I'm out. No socials. I'm going. I'm just going to have a newsletter or something. And I go, okay, good luck. I said I think I'm in too deep. And there's parts of the social media that I enjoy. Like I really like my Facebook. I don't really mess with Instagram as much as I used to, or I should at this point. I don't, whatever. I don't find the value in it like I used to before my account got nuked and I had to start over. But it's really one of those things that you make it what it is, right? And I advertise what I'm doing, where I'm going. Hey, I had some good victories, things like that. And man, if you think it's hard for people to find you without social media, good luck.
Yeah, we're all kind of hamstrung.
Yeah.
Into using it. The other thing is that Instagram is really not for us. It's not really it used to be for visual artists that drew or whatever, but now it's really, they just want, if you were dancing in your swimsuit, Jamar,
go on. Continue.
If you were dancing in your swimsuit, you'd have plenty of people like, yeah, man.
I'm messed up.
Yeah, I don't think that's true, Mike. I don't think I'd have any response like that.
You don't know until you try it.
Fair enough.
All right, I want to honor Steve. Steve told us we got to get out of here on time, so we're going to start wrapping up here.
Already that time?
Yeah, it's almost that time. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I feel like this was a nice free form. Steve,
we got some drawing done.
Yeah. Did anybody? Is there anything else in the chat that I'm missing?
I don't know. I didn't star anything. I have this note at the top. Important. Blah, 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 blah. I don't know what's going on with that. Fantastic. JRD agrees that Instagram's shift to video is rough on those of us who just don't do video. George Kent.
And even if you do video, I don't think that it's really for artists now. I think it's really for people who want to do whatever the racy teenage content. It's not for people who want to see process. I know everybody's trying it, but it doesn't really reward you. It was. And then they actually changed it because I was actually doing pretty good and I was really growing. I'm still growing, but it's so slow now. If you're doing video, if you wanted to do a video like this every day and you wanted to discuss your process or whatever, and you were doing short videos, you would probably get more followers. But then are those people going to reward you with buying your product, right?
Oh, wait, don't be hasty. Right.
No?
Like, I'm agreeing with you. Like, what are these people doing?
They would buy that if it's a T-shirt.
We all know that trap.
Studio Sky Tiger on the YouTube. Instagram seems to only work for artists. If you're doing process videos or tutorials, that's it. And I think to me, it's like social media as a promotional outlet. I feel like if you're using it to keep in touch with your friends and just to really, in the purest sense, as a social thing, you can use it and curate your feed so you're only the people you follow, for instance, and that, like I do on Blue Sky. I rarely go into that kind of classic mode where I'm starting to see random stuff thrown at me by the system's best guess. I feel like if you can curate it and use it in just for social purposes, it's fine. But I think everyone who's trying to game it in some way as a way of promotion, I think you're just better off drawing. There's got to be, you're better off going to the local coffee shop and putting up a flyer for goodness sakes.
Yeah. The real issue is we don't know what they're doing. We don't know how they're screwing around with the algorithm. So you're trying to assume, well, if I do this, then this will happen. But that doesn't necessarily mean that is actually what will happen. So
right, and it's all bean counting, and it could change on a dime. It's the system is going to say this kind of content gives, over 1 billion people. This kind of content will generate X many thousands of hours of more stickiness, right? So it's none of it is a system that we can ever learn fast enough to take advantage of or manipulate in some way.
No,
it's like a fool's errand.
They're always changing it, right? They're constantly looking at what their competition is doing and like, oh no, what do they do? What was the most popular thing last month? Oh, okay, well now we're not going to. What was it you just told me today, Steve? That Facebook is getting rid of stuff, right? They're getting rid of
the archive of live videos. Anything older than a month is going to be removed from Facebook Live, just because I'm sure their servers are probably full of stuff that no one looks at. So D asks a question: where do you guys prefer to watch the podcast on, Facebook or YouTube?
I say YouTube.
I say YouTube as well.
The only reason, I don't know. When we started this, it just made sense that it's streamed in a couple of places. And it's just kind of what we've been doing all this time. There's a bunch of people who got their feet wet with Pencil to Pencil on the Pencil to Pencil Facebook page, which is still active. And there's somebody on there right now. I just saw there was some DM from some dude who was like, yo, how come I can't find this on Spotify? Like that, what? There's no other people on there except that one guy looking for something. But yeah, it seems like this is the liveliest place. I feel like you get more traction here. And I also feel like it feels real when it's here. Steve's over on Twitch, and I feel like that could also be a good place for us. But I don't know enough about Twitch to make.
I think you also split yourself too much. I think why would you? What difference does it make whether you watch this on YouTube, you're watching it on, Billy Bob's backyard streaming service. It's all the same. You're seeing the same thing, So, you can listen to it or you can watch. If you can watch it on YouTube, then what difference would it make if you're on Stitcher or whatever? To me, it doesn't make any difference.
Yeah, I like it on YouTube for a few reasons. I mean, I got the premium YouTube, not to brag, but not having the ads to worry about is a thing, and then also get to watch it on the TV. So it's on the television. It's not taking up computer real estate or iPad real estate.
Yeah, and also I think there are just people that don't watch other things. It's like when he's like, "Hey, did you see that thing? Oh man, I don't have Facebook. I got rid of my Facebook," and that's their answer.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like if you put it here, what, Steve? If you made a shirt, I would buy it.
I'm
gonna make a shirt. I'm gonna make a shirt that says that.
Well, a shirt that says, "If you made this a shirt, I'd buy that." That's hilarious. There's it's what I do with my webcomics. I put them on every site I can because I have to go where people are. And, there's that thought about if someone has like a really good following on Friendster right now or MySpace, it's probably not paying off. So, yeah, we probably should put this everywhere we can. And I'm sure if StreamYard made it easier for us to share it to more places, we would.
If you want to pay for it.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, to that, we should start wrapping up. Guys, thanks so much for hanging out with us. Steve, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. Do we? Are you doing a coffee with JAMAR?
No, not this week. I do it every other Thursday. So this is an off Thursday.
If folks want to. If anyone wants to check out that Kickstarter, I do recommend it. By the way, the one I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, it is for the Becoming Frazetta book, written by Michael Finn, and with Sarah Frazetta, Frank Frazetta's granddaughter, and Mark Schultz, guest of the show. You can check out him in our archives. They have put together a book about how Frazetta became Frazetta. And it's the first book of its kind, and it's pretty awesome. And the Kickstarter is going on now. It launched on Monday, and it's already... and it's not the kind of book that Michael has done in the past. He's done graphic novels using mostly public domain characters. This is his first nonfiction art book, so it's not like he's had this huge, it's not like this is the 50th art book. It's not. He's not Taschen, so the day 2 was as big as day 1. So it's a thing that as the word gets out, more and more people are jumping on board. So check it out. It's got a steep price tag, but it's 9x12. It's a 4-pound book. It's almost 400 pages of awesome stuff and never before seen. Like I think there's 70 pages of never before seen Frank Frazetta work, and Mark Schultz commentary throughout. So it's smart on top of smart. So it's really good.
Eternity. So thanks for the reminder. That's a good look.
Check it out. And the campaign video is I would say smartly edited, if I do say so myself. What do you guys have got going on? Anything to promote? Anything to shill?
What week is this?
Where am I?
Yeah, that's kind of like I'll be at the Borgata Hotel and Spa in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Chuckle. I'll be at the Funny Bone this weekend. No, I'm just on deadline. So I have some travel coming up next month, but right now it's just head down. You know how it goes.
Anyone Heroes Con?
No con. I'm not planning any cons so far this year. That might change, but right now I'm sort of like incognito. I'm not planning on doing any cons. I've got stuff that I want to do. I want to go out and see my parents in California. So I would rather spend my time doing that than sitting behind a table at a convention, working harder than I end up working at home. So That may change, but right now, no, I don't have any plans for any cons this year.
Looks like we got Penciliers will be at Heroes Con. We've got we got Tom Zoller. That's probably a neighbor of mine. We are usually cohorts there. JRD and Bob and Pop Culture Squad as well. So that's great.
Nice. All right. So this is we're pulling the plug, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with us.
I'll finish this off and post it on my socials. So.
Yeah, that was good, Mike. Good job. And I hope you guys like the rolling comments at the bottom of the screen. It's we'll have to see how this works when we're doing like a non-drawing episode when we're interviewing somebody. He's still kind of chopped up from the fence. Is that what's going on, Steve?
Yeah, he's reassembled himself using his memory of how he thinks he's assembled. He doesn't. The line was that he doesn't even know. He's pretty sure some of those parts aren't his. He's unfamiliar with them.
I love what you're doing. That's great. Oh, you know what? Hold on. Bob says, I was nervous about the rolling comments, but I might give it a try next. Oh, doing it on Pop Culture Squad. Yeah, we'll see how it works. I mean, we can always turn it off if it's distracting for us, but see what you think on your thing. All right, guys. A quick plug for next Wednesday. We have Fabrice Sapolsky joining us to close out the month. Fabrice is a great creator and cartoonist, and also the he's a small press publisher of Fair Square Comics. He's got some really great things in his stable, and I ran into him again on the road, and I was just like, "Oh, right, Fabrice, we're supposed to do that thing." And he's like, "Yes, we were." See, Bob knows what's up. Nice get. I like a good get. So we'll have graphics up for that a little later at the beginning of next week. So make sure that you check in. I love when we have interviews with people who are kind of just mixing up the algorithm in their own way. Talking about self-publishing, talking about publishing, talking about creating your own works, and then bringing in other people, kind of like Rich Woodall last week, which was a really great episode. So I love that we can continue talking about different facets of the business, and hope that you get something out of these things. So thank you so much. Mike, any last words for the evening?
Go draw something.
Hey, Dino. Dean says, let's talk turkey. I love it.
Just in time.
Good to see you.
Everybody should go draw something.
That's right. Go draw something.
Fine.
All right,
I'll do it.
All right. Sounds good, guys. Cumberbatch told us. He said we're in the end times. This is the end game.
Every week it's a little bit more endy than last week.
The doomsday clock, the Watchman clock, is getting closer and closer. So before we get into that before we succumb to Skynet, I implore you to please wash those curvy hands.
Any day now, Galactus will come and save us.
The hands of
Rooting for Galactus. Excellent.
Yeah, I'm rooting for Galactus.
Deliver us, Galactus. All right.
I'm ready to encase myself in silver and help Galactus.
Mike is the new herald. I love it. All right, guys. That's it. We're out of here. We'll see you. Have a good one. Good night.